Hello, my name is Faith Harvey. I'm a student at Grand Canyon University, and I'm currently enrolled in their K-5 education program. And today I'm going to be talking about dispositions that I possess that'll make me an excellent teacher, dispositions that I need to work on in order to become an excellent teacher, and decisions that I think that professional educators should display. And so that part I'm going to be talking about is ones that I possess. And the first one would be compassion. I am a very compassionate person. I'm very loving, very nurturing, and I feel like that is an excellent reason why I should be a teacher, just for the simple fact of children do not always get the love, the compassion, the empathy that they should be at home. And so I feel like as an educator, I would be able to make that second home for them, make that safe space for them to where they can really grow and develop into their true selves and not somebody that somebody wants them to be. The next one would be advocacy. I am very strong on advocating for people, especially ones that cannot necessarily advocate for themselves or do not know how to advocate for themselves, especially working with younger children that don't have the words to say, hey, I need this extra help. That is my job to advocate for them. That is my job to make sure that they are getting a fair education, that they are getting, a nurturing education, that they are getting, they're actually understanding the stuff, that they may need the IEP, and that is my job to fight that battles that they cannot fight. And then the third one would be dedication. If I love something, I am dedicated, and that includes teaching and watching young minds pick up new things and mold into these creative and amazing human beings. And so that's why I think I would make an excellent teacher. The next ones that I feel like I should work on is high expectations, and not necessarily because I don't set high expectations for my students, but also like kind of working on more the fact of how high should I expect them to do. Like, I can't, expect them to make 100 on every single test. That's just not how brains work. I can't expect, one little boy who may struggle with math to ace every math test, whereas, another little boy who is straightforward with all math would not have a single problem with it, picks up on it fast, to make the same grade, but also like set up the high expectation for them that, you are going to pass, you are going to do this, we will do it together, you got this. The next one I need to work on is honesty, and not because I'm not an honest person, but because I am not a brutally honest person. And so I feel like I need to kind of work around where, like, not necessarily beating around the bush to what's going on, like what can be fixed versus versus actually telling them like, hey, let's work on your math. Let's, your grade is not where it needs to be, whatever the situation may be. So I do think that that's something that I can always, reflect on and work on. And the third one would also be reflection. Not like I reflect on myself and on my actions quite a bit, but also I feel like that's kind of one of those things that like you like always need to work on is your reflection and how you're like seeing yourself. Especially because like sometimes, you think of something like, oh, this is okay, and then you look back on it, it's like, this is not okay. And I feel like that's just a constant learning process on how to reflect and how to better yourself. And then lastly, the qualities that I think that professional educators should display, for one, is dedication and compassion. Those two, I feel, kind of go hand in hand in a way. Like, if you truly love something, if you're truly compassionate, you will be dedicated to it. And it's not fair to the students if you are not compassionate about what you're teaching, because then they're not going to be compassionate about it. And it's not fair if you're not dedicated to your job, because then they're going to think, well, if the teacher doesn't think this is worth anything, then I'm not going to think it's worth anything. Next, I feel like the respect for diversity of others is definitely an important one, because especially, now with, integrated schools, and we have students that speak mainly Spanish, or we have, like a lot of Muslim children, like where I live, that I think that is a very important thing, that, not all people grow up in the same lifestyle, whether it's race, financial status, whatever the situation may be. It's important to be able to relate to each one of these children, as well as recognizing that, Susie and Mateo are not the same person. Their lifestyles may be two completely different things. Like what they do, two completely different things. And lastly, I think that curiosity is a big one for educators. Mostly because I feel like that also kind of goes with compassion. If you are not curious, for learning extra, and like say, your kid asks, one of your students ask you a question and you don't know how to respond, you should be as curious about this as they are to be able to do the extra research, to be able to get them the answers that they need, instead of being like, I don't know, ask Google, because I have unfortunately had teachers like that. That would just tell me, ask Professor Google, instead of actually, putting in the details. So then it made me, not care as much about what I was learning. So in the end, I feel like those dispositions would be important for professional educators. But all in all, I do think that I have a fairly good amount of dispositions for being a future teacher. There is obviously some that I can work on, probably all of them in a way I could work on somehow, whether it's, bettering my faith, kind of advocating for my community more, helping out more, whatever that situation may be. But anyways, thank you for listening to my video, and I look forward to doing more for the class.